calling the Superior Court of California, County of Merced at 209-725-4100. If you know your party's extension, you may dial it at any time. You may also visit us on the web at www.mercedcourt.org. Attention! If in the last 14 days you have had symptoms of, been exposed to, or tested positive for COVID-19, do not come to the courthouse. Contact your attorney or the clerk's office to discuss your appearance options. Office hours may vary in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Do not come to the courthouse. The coronavirus pandemic. Do not come to the courthouse.
21 days. 21 days have passed. Commissioner Shelly Seymour, Department 7, Family Law Division, Merced County, Superior Court of California, since you put the lives of my children in danger for the sake of your own covert agenda. 21 days since my faith in your jurisprudence was undermined and my trust in your office betrayed. 15 out of 21 days my children, whom you whimsically ripped from the safety of our own private homeschool, have been coerced to be exposed to the deadly variants caused by the vaccinations due to the forced socialization of your beloved publicly administered institutions of traditional education and the demographic therein. And, how about you, Commissioner? How have you been doing for the last 21 days since you demanded that I put the lives of my children in danger? Have you continued to act as if you are completely detached from the current reality and the global pandemic which has the rest of the world paralyzed by the fear of death? Do you not wear a mask when you're in a room with other people? Do you ignore the signs at the supermarket and the designated standing places with a 6-foot radius in every public building? Are you as cavalier with your own life when you are doing your business out in public as you are with the lives of children in your courtroom? Are you not forced to be scanned for your temperature by the deputies at the entrance to your courthouse like the rest of us are? Brushing the global fear of death aside for just a moment, and judging this case by the facts of it alone, it is still a matter of outrage that you should have awarded this evasive domestic violence abuser rather than offer me the simple request of further mediation which I had made of you. There is a host of evidence in this case to suggest that granting the wishes and desires of the abusive hostile respondent, my narcissistic co-parent, would be detrimental to the safety, health, happiness, and well-being of the children here. There is an equal host of evidence which speaks in my favor, as their father, and as the only one on earth who cares for these little ones as actual human beings. And, I dare say, the only one on earth who respects the eternal perfection of divinity abiding within their carnate existence. It is for this one purpose alone that I requested a platform before the court, that I might find in you the authoritative ally who is much needed by my children and I to ward off the abusive onslaught of unrelenting attacks that we must suffer due to my narcissistic co-parent's juggernaut agenda of parental alienation. 21 days ago it would have been impossible for me to conceive that you might refuse the sanctuary my family sought in your courtroom. How could I have imagined that you would arbitrarily choose to ignore the overwhelming facts of the case in my favor and reward the scofflaw who has been thumbing her nose at you for years? In fact, I would have to imagine that if you characteristically denied visitation time and requests for further mediation to the petitioning parent, who is a victim of domestic violence by the hostile and restrained responding party, in favor of awarding the abusive parent custodial favoritism, your time on the job would have been short-lived and you would have been replaced by someone who is competent of the position by now. Yet, you have managed to maintain your place on the bench for these past 7 years, so I have to wonder what it is about this case that had you tapping your little wooden hammer so quickly in favor of a domestic violence abuser, having already suppressed the testimony of, denied the request of, and placed prohibitive obstacles in the way of the domestic violence victim who came to you seeking sanctuary. You said it is in the best interest of the children, but, according to the facts, it is not so. The law on deciding custody and visitation, if you've read the court.ca website, says that judges must give custody according to what is in the best interest of the child based on the consideration of certain factors, and that it is not to be done so arbitrarily. These factors include the age and health of the child, the ability of the parents to care for the child, emotional ties between the parents and the child, any history of violence, and finally the child's ties to their school, their home, and their community. It is reasonable to presume, and highly probable, that if another person had been presiding over the hearing on Friday the 13th for which I had petitioned, the result would have been much more in my favor had it been adjudicated in the absence of your discretionary error. Based on the court's own records in this case, it is evident that the children and I share very close emotional ties in comparison to the ties they share with their emotionally abusive mother, who has openly admitted that she was unable to care for them in their infancy. While the court may assume that each parent is capable of taking general care of these two healthy children, I would have to assume that having a history of domestic violence would sway the court's consideration in the direction of the other parent, the victim of domestic violence. But it is not so in your courtroom. Commissioner Shelly Seymour, Department 7, Family Law Division, Merced County, Superior Court of California. In your discretion, you have chosen to award the emotionally incapacitated domestic violence abuser, despite their evasiveness, despite their habitual and contemptuous obstructing of your orders, despite their antics of telling accusatory lies about me and forcing the court to investigate before moving on, despite all the evidence in the facts of the case that would seem to indicate it would not be prudent for you to do so. Was the deciding factor for your arbitrary decision based entirely on a child's ties to their school, their home, and their community alone? Even so, based on the facts, you are in error. If you had acted in accordance to the current reality and according to the facts included in my visitation proposal as part of the request for order, and had made your decision concerning what is in the best interest of my children based entirely on their ties to their school, their home, and their community alone, you would not have rationally chosen as you have. I told you in the RFO, and I was equally clear in my elucidation of the facts as they were during the farcical 60 minutes that I wasted with your inept mediator, that it was necessary for me to register a private homeschool with the state of California in response to the overwhelming failures of the publicly administered institutions of traditional education. The children's ties were to their home school, not the public school that failed them in its duty. The children's ties were to their family's home in Sebastopol, where it says their name on the mailbox, not to their mother's boyfriend's residence where they have to live as guests. The children's ties were to the community in Sonoma County, where their father takes them to different parks, to wildlife preserves, and out to the beach, not to the depressed community in Los Banos where their mom is too busy to do anything with them, let alone take them to the park. But you made a joke about it during the proceedings. You said, "I don't even know where Sebastopol is," with an officious chuckle. And, it's true. You haven't the faintest idea. And you could care less about these little ones whose lives I am sworn to protect, to defend, and to nurture. And, you offered me no rationale on your behalf. And, you refused me the opportunity to offer you my own rationale. And, you quickly made your decision to strip me of my parental rights and to deny my children their right to have their own social and educational needs met outside of your beloved publicly administered institutions of traditional education. And so, you joined in on the abuse because you had found an ally in the demented abuser from whom I had sought your protection on behalf of my family. And you legitimized her abuse because now I have been forced to litigate above your head. And you increased her abuse because she cannot stop gloating that you ruled in her favor, and so now, she believes she has been given permission to be abusive. And you have prolonged her abuse because the wheels of justice turn slowly, as I'm sure you are well aware, and it will take months, and it may take a year, for me to undo the evil that you have done. It's just a matter of time, Commissioner. Time that you have forced my children to be strapped to your unholy altar of traditional education while a death blade swings madly around them in all directions, never knowing who may be struck next. and it may be that they are next. And they are justifiably, rationally, according to the facts of the current reality, and not arbitrarily so, frightened for their very lives. And the threat of death that you have placed on my little ones is very real. So, every ticking of the clock they must pay a price that is not theirs to pay, and so your debt is doubled by the price paid by 2. And your bill will come due in time, and it will be greater than your worth. And there shall be no satisfaction in it for me. And there is no guarantee that any of us will live to see the day.